What is up? It is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Had a bit of a long week and a long weekend, so wasn't really able to sit down and get to this, but here we go. Let's just jump right in. Stock market. Pretty flat last week, although it did take a little bit of a drop yesterday, another significant drop. It seems that, and I think I've touched on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but right now with the tariffs and everything else going on, it seems like the market is just swinging out of control. One day it'll drop significantly, the next day it'll go back up. Although overall, I checked my portfolio, my personal portfolio, for some reason is showing 25% down over the last 3 months, which is not a good feeling. I think my retirement account is not as bad as that, but still down quite a bit. So markets overall are just not in a good place. Not sure when that's going to pick up and get better. So we'll see what happens there. Not sure when the last time I mentioned Turo, right? That's our car rental sort of business. Jazzy went ahead and picked up another two, three cars, depending on when the last time I gave an update on it. Either way, we've now got four total vehicles. The last two just got delivered last week. They're all in the same location, and again, I mentioned before, it's less about cash flow and making us money, but they're great for write-offs. So it did provide some additional write-offs for us for this year. And again, when we sell them in 4 or 5 years, we'll trade them in or something like that. Then of course that'll be a nice little payday. So I can probably talk more about that if needed. Let's see. What I haven't touched on the boutique resort in a while. We are making some serious progress there. I think the last place where we've been kind of lingering now for the last few weeks is there were some tenants there that were long-term tenants living in RVs on the property. Not sure if I went into this, but that was one of the main purposes of that land, right? It's a commercial piece of property. It's got a big event center. The event center can hold up to 300 people. It's the only event center in that county. We've heard a lot of people in the community that really wishes that it was still around, because now there's no place where, whether it's the county, whether it's businesses, whether associations or groups, can actually host dinners and or events. And so we are hoping to be able to close on this in the next couple of weeks. Outside of the event center, it was also a daily, but they allowed long-term RV parking. So there were, I think, five long-term tenants. The sellers, I mean, that's part of their deal, is for them to go and make sure that when they're selling it, they're giving it to us vacant, since we're likely not going to continue to have long-term rental RV spots there. We did talk to them to make sure that, hey, are they gonna, do what's right here? And so they've already gone and found other parking spots for the tenants and have offered them a little bit of cash to help them with the move as well, to make it as seamless of a process as possible. And so that's just that's the stage we're in right now. I think there's one tenant that's there that's taking a little bit longer, and we're expecting them to be moved in the next week or two. And once they're gone, then that's 100% the final piece to the escrow closing. So we already went ahead and wired. I think half of the deposit has gone in to the main account, and then the full deposit will go once those tenants are out and the escrow closes, and that's it. So things are probably going to start to get pretty interesting here pretty quickly, where we're moving from initial conversations and initial thoughts on what we want to do once the property becomes ours, and we're gonna have to very quickly move into, like, okay, well, great, what are the actions we need to take today, next week, and the following week, and get it ready so we can actually start hosting people and start hosting some events, and actually starting to make some revenue from that. I will probably, once we close, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time on, like, some of the thoughts and the ideas of what we're going to do, what the timeline for that project will look like. But for today, I'm going to kind of keep the conversation going on the main topic, right, which is me getting into the next business, whatever that's going to be. If I remember correctly, the last time we talked, actually, I don't remember. It was either a toss-up between Pertec, which is the hydraulic hose repair company, or Floor Coverings International, FCI, that was sort of in the top spot. The piece that I had talked about I think for some time now is that we're going to be moving to Fresno, and those were two of the options. There was Slice House, which I believe I said maybe wasn't one of the top concepts I was considering, just based on how busy it seems that the ownership team is. But I'll touch on that a little bit today as well. Um, but there was a pretty big curveball that happened just last week, and that's with talking to the Floor Covering International. They do not actually have territories available in Fresno. They do have territories available in the East Bay. Specifically, I had mentioned before, it was sort of a toss up between us moving to Fresno or us moving back to the Bay Area and going to the East Bay. Challenges there, not going to run through all of them, but one of them was it's about 30, 45 minutes farther away from where we live now, where we have businesses and we own real estate, where also the boutique resort is located. So going to the Bay Area, it would be a little bit farther of a commute, which would make it more challenging for Jazzy and her parents to continue working within this business that we have here. So Fresno seemed like a good choice just based on proximity to where we live now, but then also a little bit lower cost to enter into that market, I think, and it might not be as competitive depending on what you're considering to be sort of competition. So here's the thing, with them not having an availability in Fresno and then pitching the Bay Area, we spent some time looking at the East Bay, Livermore, Pleasanton, San Ramon, and Danville. And it seems like they're wide open, lots of territory, and lots of really, really good territory. They walked me through how they sort of categorized through tiers, what a tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 3 would be. And it seems like Livermore, Pleasanton, San Ramon, and Danville, I think all four of those are like tier 1 territories, based on whether it's household income, but also a mix of household spending, right? So that kind of made me rethink a little bit of like, okay, do I need to consider perhaps going to the Bay Area? Another thing that we talked through was the path to profitability, the path to sort of success, depending on if it's one territory, depending on whatever your goal is. And I think with FCI, they're very clear in their model on, by the end of year 2, every single new owner they take on should get to $2 million in revenue. Then you have to subtract the cost of goods sold to get your gross profit, and then you can look at your net profit based on that. So without getting into the details yet, I can probably do that a little bit later, maybe in another episode. It seems like, and they're also lower cost to get started. So if I look at Floor Coverings International, and then Pertec, and then I'll touch on Slice House. Floor Coverings International, I think the cost there is likely around $300,000 to get started for one territory. You could likely get a second territory up and running with much less capital needed. So it could be much more affordable to get a second and a third territory up. And then once you look at the ROI on that, it starts to look pretty good. With Pertec, just to get one location started, based on being in California, it looks like that one's closer to 600,000. So essentially, now you get into weighing Pertec, one territory for 600,000, but I could potentially get 2, maybe even 3 territories with Floor Coverings International for the same cost. I do think the revenue projections and the income on Floor Coverings International, if you get to the 3rd territory, then it starts to perhaps outpace Pertec a little bit. But I do think it might be somewhat similar, where Pertec for one territory, and we'll just go straight to net income, right? I invest $600,000 and I'm hoping to make, let's just call it, $300,000 a year on that. Whereas with Floor Coverings International, I guess you have to have at least 2 territories, and there, maybe 2 territories would cost you around 450, around there. So perhaps slightly even lower cost to kind of get the same sort of net income. So anyways, still early stages of working my way through, but based on hearing that they weren't even available in Fresno, I did have the conversation with Jazzy, and at first she was like, okay, so Bay Area's on the table, which put us in a kind of a tricky spot, because now we already have a house that we've already agreed to rent in Fresno. But now even just entertaining that we might go to Livermore that introduces a little bit of a little bit of stress in terms of how we're going to sort of approach this, right? Now it is Tuesday, so I did have the weekend to sort of think about this as well, talk to some friends, and interesting thing is I've got a few people that are saying like, like Fresno technically could still be the better move considering the boutique resort we're working on, as well as the real estate and the other property management business we still have. So, and then I've got a couple of other friends that I talked to that are like, Dave, what are you doing? Like, dude, come back to the Bay Area. But also not that I need more sort of doubt or stress, but I've got a couple of friends that are like, dude, just stop it. Don't even get another business. Just jump right back into your field you've been in, corporate, for the last 25 years, right? Seems like an easier path. You could probably get a job pretty easily. But I am pretty much stuffing that aside for now. I'm staying strong. I still believe being a business owner is what I want to do and directionally where I want to go. So I'm going to stay focused on that. I did have another call this morning with another owner. It was a group call with an owner on the Pertech side, and again, a lot of things that they kind of talked through in terms of their experience. They've been an owner for about 6 months. Resonates, seems very consistent with what a lot of the other owners have been sharing. So I'm feeling pretty confident that at least at this point in the journey here, that there aren't really any red flags or anything major that I think I should be concerned about. So we'll see how that goes. And then now, after kind of thinking it through, that it might be a little bit better. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Hey, I am recording a video. Give me 10 minutes, okay? No, I'm recording a video for you. Get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, go tell her I'll be back in 10 minutes. Kristian, not sure if you heard yourself there. Anyways, I think where I left off. So let's see. I still think, even as I'm thinking it through, I think I still might prefer Fresno. And so we'll see where this sort of goes. That does mean if I prefer Fresno and if Pertech continues to sort of seem like a really strong brand and a concept for me, then that would be the front runner. So Pertech seems like it's in a really good spot right now. I'm not going to throw out FCI just yet. I'm going to continue the process there too, right? I never know if Pertech's going to, want to partner with me. So we'll see how that goes. Slice House. They did send me an email with the new FDD, which is the franchise disclosure documents, and the numbers for 2024. Like they look strong, right? And once, I think I mentioned this, the disclosure documents, it's government regulated. They got to register with the states. And technically they can't. I mean, they could, but then they open themselves up to litigation and lawsuits. So they should not lie. From my perspective, pretty much we should know that what they put into those FTDs, the states reviewed them and approved them, that it is factual. So Slice House, I think that's probably closer to $1 million build. One restaurant costs $1 million to start from scratch. But those, I think, on average, for the ones that were open for a full year in 2024, did a little bit over $3 million in revenue. Their net income on that, not sure if I should say net income, because net income might take into account taxes. Maybe it's the EBITDA, but either way, we're getting too technical there, is around 15%, and that's after paying their royalties. So now on average, it looks like I guess not each, but on average, the Slice House restaurants that were open last year could do or would do or did do about $450,000 in income. That is a very nice amount, especially on one store. Now, again, it's $1 million build out. So, could I have two Pertech territories that each did, $200,000, $250,000? Sure. Could that cost still come in at under $1 million or equitably somewhere there? Sure. So just depends on how you look at it, how much risk you're willing to take up front. So Slice House, I'm still considering them. I do get that they are busy, but they're busy for good reasons. It's because they have so many stores that they're opening, and corporate's really leaning in to help out with that. So that's great. Of course, I still, if they're a little bit less established, then who knows how good of support they offer, once you're actually opened. So that's the question mark that's still there. But at the end of the day, who knows? What if a month from now I go through the process in Pertec and or the Flora Concepts or covering, I should say, doesn't, work out the way that I want or the way that I think it should, then it's still good to have that as a backup option. So those are the three concepts I'm still considering. The one that's interesting is I don't think I touched on like my own little rubric that I have, right? Which is like my scoring system, where I try to figure out, how do I make a somewhat data informed decision. And one of the categories I added was, and I got this from talking to somebody else, was is the business AI or big tech proof, right? Meaning I start this, and in 5 years from now, could AI completely just take over, right? Or big tech. Somebody else was mentioning like, yeah, Amazon, anything they touch. I mean, they're easily able to just come in and take over lots of different industries, right? So if big tech decides to get into that kind of a space, how would that impact my business? And so I think with Pertec, for sure, not only is it recession proof, it's going to be around for a very, very long time. I doubt there's going to be anything big tech, anything automated AI that's going to come in and replace that. So I think that's really, really strong. And I think same thing with Floor Coverings International, right? I don't think that's necessarily going to get replaced by tech. And then I guess Slice House as well, right? I think that's going to be around for a while as well. So I think all three of those on my scoring system tend to do pretty well. So um, I think I'm going to end it there, right? I think we'll keep this a little bit shorter. It's Tuesday afternoon, and so hopefully I'll get some time this Friday, and I'll get you guys caught up. I'm supposed to have another call with Pertec tomorrow with the main sales director there, and so I've got a bunch of questions for them. And then on Thursday, I have another call with Flora Coverings International, so we'll see how that goes. And then, and with Pertec, I actually did email them and I said, hey, do you have, how do the territories look like in the East Bay? And he said, no, they look good. They're open. So let's talk about that. So I'll talk about that with the Pertec guy tomorrow, and we'll see how that compares to Fresno as well. And then I'm waiting to hear back from Slice House. They told me that they're gonna, schedule a call with somebody, VP of operations. So I'll just wait and see. All right. Peace.